Hello, I'm Reverend Marcus Lyle, and I'm pleased to be able to host this 50th anniversary celebration of Earth Day. When I think back to April 22nd, 1970, I think about the fact that I was 8 years old. I had just turned 8 the day before, and my teachers in elementary school were giving us a lot of projects to reflect on environmentalism and how we can help stop pollution. One of my teachers assigned a poster design contest, and I ended up winning, which helped me feel like I had some abilities in art and design, and that did lead to a future career. But back to Earth Day, I think this is such an important day because each year for the past 50 years we've had a chance to focus on the important issues at hand and to think deeply about our role in the world and what we can do individually to make a difference. A few months ago, before the COVID-19 pandemic, a committee had planned a whole series of events to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day here at Brixby Village. And one of the speakers that was invited to come was Second Chief Tom Frederick of the Chappaquiddick Wampanoag Nation. And I was really disappointed that we had to cancel that event because he had come here 3 years ago, and when he spoke in the chapel we had received a lot of good responses. A lot of us really appreciated his words of wisdom. So I reached out to Tom and asked him if he could maybe connect with us over Zoom video, and I was really happy that yesterday we were able to record his message that I will share with you a little bit later in this program. But first I thought we might walk down memory lane and revisit some news stories and some cultural images from 50 years ago. I hope you'll enjoy watching some of these again, and then I'll be back in a little bit to introduce Chief Tom Frederick. Thank you.
Smokey Bear has got a pal who was always on the prowl. Woodsy is his name, you know, he's the anti-pollution owl. Give a hoot, don't pollute your big outdoor manners show. Leave a trail that's nice and clean wherever you may go. This great country is our own and it's up to us to care. Woodsy Owl will lead the way, so come on, let's do our share. Give a hoot, don't pollute, Woodsy Owl knows what is best. Help him check pollution in the north, southeast, and west. In the north, southeast, and west.
In the years leading up to that first Earth Day, many Americans became concerned about what they saw as unchecked air and water pollution and the destruction of forests and other ecosystems. Dennis Hayes was the first Earth Day national coordinator.
In Los Angeles, the estimates were that for simply breathing, it was the equivalent of smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. We had rivers that were catching on fire, lakes that were dying, the American national emblem, the bald eagle, was on the verge of extinction, and on and on.
The growing anti-war movement of the late 1960s also contributed to the surge in environmental activism. As Earth Day approached, support for it spread. On April 22nd, 1 in every 10 Americans took part in rallies, concerts, educational programs, and cleanup projects.
It was to raise a set of issues, to tie them all together into one fabric, so that the people who were fighting against pesticides and the people who were fighting to stop freeways cutting through their neighborhoods, or fighting against air pollution, or fighting to preserve a wetland, would realize that they had common values.
The public outcry on that first Earth Day led to political action. Congress passed new laws for clean air, water, and endangered species, and created the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
This planet is threatened with destruction, and we who live in it with death. The heavens reek of The waters below are foul, children die in infancy, and we and the world, which is our home, live on the brink of nuclear annihilation. We are in a crisis of survival.
This is a CBS News special, Earth Day, a question of survival, with CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. A unique day in American history is ending, a day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival. Earth Day, a day dedicated to enlisting all the citizens of a bountiful country in the common cause of saving life from the deadly byproducts of that bounty, the fouled skies, the filthy waters, the littered earth. As a demonstration, its success was mixed, beyond expectations here, far below there. No one now can know exactly how many took part. We do have an idea how many planned participation, student groups in 2,000 colleges and 10,000 lower schools, citizen groups in 2,000 communities. By one measurement, Earth Day failed. It did not unite. It did attract that broad cross-section of America its sponsors wanted, not quite. Its demonstrators were predominantly young, predominantly white, predominantly anti-Nixon. Often its protests appeared frivolous, its protesters curiously carefree. Yet the gravity of the message of Earth Day still came through. Act or die. We begin our report with Bruce Morton in Denver.
Place for Purple Mountain's majesty. A place where on a clear day, the legend says, you could see forever. The clear days are fewer now, and instead of forever, the view often stops with haze. Next to Los Angeles, Denver has the best climate in the country for producing smog. In this unlikely seeming place, the air is threatened. Earth Day is a focus for efforts to save it.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Wow, it's hard to believe that 50 years can fly by so quickly. Well, at this point, I'd like to share the words of Second Chief Wunnamwau, Tom Frederick, of the Chappaquiddick Wampanoag Nation. I think you'll really enjoy what he has to say. Thank you for joining us today, and we are very honored to have you be with us.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. And on behalf of my tribe, the Chappaquiddick, the Chappaquiddick people of Massachusetts Nation, we are very grateful to be a part of such an important celebration and the opportunity to share some of our insights as to the great changes that are affecting many of us right before our eyes. It's both an exciting time, but it's also a scary time. But we're reminded to keep our hope, keep our faith, and learn and listen to the elders in our past that can help us certainly through and to navigate these difficult and trying times. First, I believe that in order to understand what we're going through, we can look back in the past and listen to and learn from the prophecies, from the storytellings that have been passed down from generation to generation, that we are entering into a time, and have been for quite some while, of great changes and awakening of the human spirit, the human mind, and the evolution of us as a human race. One of the most important things is that as we go forward with the green consciousness that we have of celebrating Earth Day, it's all part of it. The interesting thing when I think about what's going on is that the Earth for a long time has been on a precipice of imbalance and dealing with pollution and the increasing intolerance and the divisiveness of this nation. Uh, it is no coincidence that we are all forced now to take a step and to reevaluate that the current approaches and interactions with each other need to be reevaluated to define a new way for us to interact, a healthier way. But I also think it has a lot to do with our mental and our spiritual minds that have the ability to affect everything within this universe. We are truly, as we say, Wamani Conquiso, which means all related. We are all interconnected, not only with each other, but deeply tied to Mother Earth and this world we live in itself. The My belief is that the COVID virus is a direct response to imbalance. How it came into being, how it was created, how it happened, I feel that that is the irrelevant part. The most important thing is to recognize that it is here. What I looked upon, what the COVID virus looked like, it resembles a T cell fighter cell. And if you know anything about, for our listeners, in regards to immunity, the T cells or the fighter cells actually go forward to destroy the invasive bacteria or the invasive virus that is affecting the human body. We believe in our culture that Mother Earth is a living, breathing entity, that it is not just an inanimate object, but that the oxygen that it puts in, the trees are the lungs of the earth, the waters are the blood of the earth, and the rocks are the actual bones of the earth, and the circulation, the magma, the lava that's within the core of the earth, all of those things function to create a living, viable organism that we call Mother Earth. The spirit of that has been deeply disturbed, from our pollution to our desecration of the waters and the streams, and the way we drill and without respect or understanding what is happening as a result of it. With our increasing destruction upon the earth, we have created devastating pollution that affects the very air that we, the inhabitants of Mother Earth, live. So, focused on the imbalances that have occurred, it's almost like a natural response to the body to try to correct and create balance of this environment. Since our isolations, that the world as a whole, like literally the world has had to stop and to press reset, we know for a fact that even in Italy, for the first time, the swans and the dolphins have appeared in the canals of Venice. The waters are clear, which is incredible. From outer space, we can look at China and Japan and actually see the planet because the pollution has literally been lifted. Even within our own America itself, how many streams that have become clear. I am amazed at how within a short span of time, the earth itself can really regenerate, replenish, and heal. But what is happening in an emotional level to each one of us? We are called to not only stop our traditional way of living, but we're also being forced into this separation from each other. I think that spiritually, we are being called to redefine that human interaction. We are called to reevaluate what is appropriate touch, what is inappropriate touch, what is appropriate or inappropriate interaction, what are our social cues, all of that is being reevaluated. And certainly our prophecies, our histories have showed us that we would come to this time, that there would be a fork in the road. And this is leaving the seventh fire into the eighth fire. And that eighth fire is that as we approach this fork in the road, which is clearly where we're at, a time when there would be disease and pandemics and a lack of valuable resources and economic uncertainty, uh, that we would have to make a choice. And that is either to evolve ourselves as a species towards the unity of all, with the concept of our interrelationship to all things. But what does that mean? We have a responsibility to always set forth and to walk in beauty with the utmost of faith, hope, and what we call agape love, that is, that uncompassionate love, allowing each individual to live as they see fit, to worship their creator based upon their understanding and their relationship with God. Gone is the time where one belief system fits all. One decisive decision for one is going to be the new template for all. We have to encourage that diversity and that individuality and accord each person that right to find their own happiness and place upon Mother Earth. Once we decrease our, number one, our anxieties, our social differences, our attitudes of affluence, and the feelings of better than thou, or that I know best for all, it's going to give people the opportunity to live in harmony, to live in peace as they pursue their ideal goals. I feel that that's part of it. Right now, you're seeing an extreme struggle of the extremist groups that are trying to enforce specific belief systems that this one way is what all of us need. If we choose to go down the path of the past, then we can expect more of the same destructive types of experiences, both the pollution of the earth, the releasing and the discovery of new and worse pandemic diseases. Or we can enter into a time of harmony and balance, and then realize that everything we need to survive, to sustain ourselves, to live in harmony, can be found by an equilibrium or a balance with us living with Mother Earth rather than on Mother Earth.
I guess I'm asking, how can we make the most of this time of pausing and resetting before the influential companies and politicians try to just put everything back to the way it was?
It's a great question, Marcus. One of the things is that it's about individual responsibility to affect social change. How we do that is by taking a moment and really reflecting upon our emotional, spiritual, mental status, a personal check-in. If we are operating through our many veils, our many layers of life's experiences, by being defined by our own trials and tribulations, our traumas, etc., emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, we are affected by those experiences. And that in turn determines a great deal of how we respond to any circumstance. But we, as a species, have a responsibility to positive thinking, to reflect love, to reflect an attitude of balance. If we're projecting so much of the anger, frustration, and hatred, and et cetera, our environment literally responds to the energy that we carry. As we are, so too do we create. The change can start with a simple positive affirmation of peace within each and every one of ourselves. When we are in balance, when we are in a peaceful place, our environment reflects that. There was a study that was done many years ago by just the simple act of chanting or praying, that how we can affect the very molecules of water just by positive thinking, positive affirmation, or prayer. What can we do with positive affirmation prayer to the environment itself, that if our mental status, our mental capabilities are in the space of balance, words cannot even come to mind what the possibilities are we can create in this world.
Yeah.
So I always say the responsibility starts with our mental thinking. How do we sustain that? How do we support that? Through prayer, through individual time of checking in with ourselves. What is it that I need? And realizing that it is no one's responsibility to provide for our happiness. We are responsible for our own happiness and our own joy. And then to emulate that joy to others, which grants people the permission to seek their own peace as well. So it's living by role model. I think organizations, whether they be religious or organizations of meditation or organizations of peace or mental health wellness, whatever it is, transforming this negative divisive energy into one of universal love and agape simply means forgiving oneself first and then allowing ourselves to live fully in joy. And that's always been my message. It's about love, it's about joy, and it's about staying away from the concept of that one shoe fits all type of thing, and realizing that we need to celebrate diversity and the individual at the same point.
Yeah. Chief Frederick, can you say a few words about the recent news of the Mashpee Wampanoag people and the threats that they're facing from the federal government as well?
Yes, the Mashpee brothers and sisters and family members that are in Massachusetts have experienced a setback. And part of that setback is that the lands, the tribal lands that have been set aside are under review, and that they stand at this particular point of rescinding of the rights towards tribal lands that have been allotted to them, which has been about 321 acres. For many of us, this is a travesty. It would be one of the first nations to ever be acknowledged federally as a federally recognized tribe, to lose land into trust over the issues of semantics. This all goes back to a 1934 edict that if a tribe was not identified by then they don't have the same privileges for pre-colonial tribes that established a tribe-to-tribe relationship with the early Europeans and the settlers. So again, understanding that the tribe of Mashpee was a great commerce for many tribes within the state of Massachusetts. And so that is an important place of identity for many of us, both historically as well as familial. So we continue to fight for those rights to hopefully release the lands and to allow Mashpee to stand as that sovereign nation that they so critically are fighting for.
Wow. Well, we wish you all the best in that continued legal battle. I hope that you can prevail and retain your lands.
Yes.
One other question I wanted to ask you is, I'm finding your words to be so comforting and inspiring, and I'm sure others that view this will experience that as well. Are there other places we can hear your teachings? Are you broadcasting or sharing your teachings anywhere that people can access them?
Well, what we do is if people are interested, they can either email me at wunnamwau@gmail.com. And if they're interested in participating in our weekly church service, we can send out an invitation and they're welcome to join us, which is a simple place of prayer and a little scripture and just checking in with each other and celebrating the word. I think it's a great opportunity for many people just to experience peace. And I like to say that our church, Our Lady of All Nations, is a place where the Christ-centered belief systems merged with Native American belief systems. And we are open to all aspects that celebrate that concept of universal love.
Thank you so much, Chief Frederick, for speaking with us, for sharing your wisdom, and like I said, your presence is so comforting and inspiring, and so I'm really happy that we can share your message with the community at Brooksby Village.
Well, thank you. And then on the behalf again of my tribe and the Global Indigenous Initiative advancement, which is called GIA, we do a lot of work to reach out to many of the Indigenous families within Massachusetts that are in need, that are marginalized, and are in need of services. So we do a lot of work in order to reach out. But part of that is to really bridge unity and to bring all of us together during this time and realize that we are stronger together as a whole than we are separate. So I say Akwini, which is peace, to everyone. Wimani Kankwisak, we are all related and interconnected.
Akwini and Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure to see each and every one of you. And until we see each other again.
Thank you so much. There's so much to reflect upon. There's so many winds of change in the air. We have much to contemplate. And ironically, Walter Cronkite's words from 50 years ago still ring so very true. And I'll close today's program by allowing Walter to speak.
The hoopla of Earth Day is over. The problems remain. Only time will tell if these demonstrations accomplished anything. But let's summarize the points that were brought home today to a lot of people who have missed the point so far. For instance, the militants who see all this as an establishment trick to divert attention from what to them are more urgent concerns like civil rights or like Vietnam. They seem to have missed the point that there are no civil rights or peace in a lifeless world. For instance, the politicians who see this as a safe crusade, they seem to have missed the point that it will involve treading on more special interests than ever in our history. For the first time, they may even have to come out against motherhood. For instance, those in industry who see the crisis as only the hysterical creation of do-gooders, they've missed the point if they haven't heard the unanimous voice of the scientists warning that halfway measures and business as usual cannot possibly pull us back from the edge of the precipice. For instance, the too silent majority. The greatest disappointment today was the degree of non-participation across the country, and especially the absence of adults. And the young people who did participate were in a skylark mood, which contrasted rudely with the messages of apocalypse. Those who ignored Earth Day, well, that's one thing. Those who ignore the crisis of our planet, that's quite another. The indifferent have missed the point that to clean up the air and earth and water in the few years science says is left to us means personal involvement and may mean personal sacrifice, the likes of which Americans have never been asked to make in time of peace. The sense of today's teach-in was that America must undertake a revolution in its way of life. Affluent America will, we were told, almost certainly have to scale down its standards of living, give up having as many cars, as many children, as many cans, as many conveniences, as much conspicuous consumption. Someday, we heard today, the world will be a better place if it listens and acts. But in the meantime, perhaps for a generation or more, it will be frighteningly costly to each of us to clean up the mess each of us has made. But the cost of not doing so is more frightening. That's what today's message really means. And those who marched today, and those who slept, and those who scorned are in this thing together. What is at stake and what is in question is survival. This is Walter Cronkite. Good night.